Tucker Carlson's transformation from Islamophobe to Islamo over the past 2 years is even more shocking than Muhammad's transformation from bi-curious to 100% gay on the night of Al-Zut. In his most recent tongue bath of all things Islam, Tucker declares that mocking Muhammad's religion is evil and immoral. Islam should never be mocked by anyone. In context, Tucker is responding to Trump's post from a few days ago where the president promised bad things for Iran. Trump said, "Tuesday will be power plant day and bridge day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the censored straight, you crazy bees." I still don't know if that's a curse word or not. "Or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. President Donald J. Trump." Now, this post was a bit weird, even by Trump's standards, and Tucker does raise some important concerns. But I'm going to address most of Tucker's response in a separate video. Here, I want to take a closer look at Tucker's claim that no one should ever mock Islam, because that's the clip that was shared over and over and over on X. Let's have a look. So, Tucker reads Trump's post, and he really doesn't like the praise be to Allah part.
Just watch. Praise be to Allah. So obviously you're mocking the religion of Iran. Okay. If you seek a religious war, that's a good idea.
To be fair, Iranian leaders view this as a religious war. So if you know they view this as a religious war, you may want to mock their religion during the war. But you could argue that either way. Watch what Tucker says next.
But by the way, no decent person mocks other people's religions.
Say what now?
No decent person mocks other people's religions.
But what if it's Talmudic Judaism, Tucker?
No decent person mocks other people's religions.
Now, I'm obviously not a decent person, according to Tucker Carlson, because I mock Islam all the time. Most of my friends are either critics of Islam or ex-Muslims who mock Islam. Ex-Muslims are under a death sentence for refusing to mindlessly obey the ramblings of an illiterate 7th century Arabian caravan robber. But they're not allowed to mock the religion that calls for their public executions. They wouldn't be decent people if they mocked the religion that calls for their deaths, according to Tucker Carlson. Plenty of prophets in the Bible, and even God himself in the Bible, mock other religions. So none of them are decent, according to world-renowned scholar of religions, Tucker Carlson. But we'll ignore all of that for now, because there's a huge hypocrisy we need to consider. Muslims and their allies have been celebrating and praising Tucker's claim that no decent person mocks other people's religion. The Muslim Mum posted, "Tucker Carlson goes off on Donald Trump for mocking Islam." Mehdi Hassan, "Okay, this is actually pretty good, not just because he is pushing back against the right-wing mockery of Islam, but for the first time, Tucker is breaking with Trump, directly criticizing him. That's bold, given his base." Chunk Yogurt, "People tell me I have to hate Tucker Carlson, but no one in mainstream media was ever this decent to us. No president should mock Islam. They all smeared Muslims to help Israel. Am I supposed to disagree with this? We are not a theocracy, and God willing, we never will be." Samira Munshi, "Powerful. As a Muslim, I will never mock another faith, and as an American, I expect that of my leaders as well." Quds News Network, Tucker Carlson, "No president should mock Islam. That's not your job. This is not a theocracy. We don't go to war with other theocracies to find out which one is more effective. We are not a theocracy, and God willing, we never will be." Khadija Siddiqui, "No decent person mocks other people's religion," said Tucker. Finally, someone prominent from the Republican side is saying what many Muslims have been pointing out. mocking other people's religion isn't right. It's time to stop the bigotry. Well, there you have it. Muslims agree that no decent person would ever mock other people's religion. But do Muslims actually believe that? Or are they just pretending to believe it in order to convince gullible people not to mock Islam? If Muslims actually believe that no decent person would ever mock other people's religion, they've got a serious problem, because Muhammad and his companions mocked other people's religion. In Sahih al-Bukhari 2478, Muhammad conquers Mecca, which was filled with polytheists. What did Muhammad do? The Prophet entered Mecca, and at that time there were 360 idols around the Kaaba. He started stabbing the idols with a stick he had in his hand and reciting, "Truth, Islam, has come, and falsehood, disbelief, has vanished." Muhammad went around stabbing the idols of the polytheists. He stabbed them to show his contempt for them. He stabbed idols to insult and mock and degrade them. This means that, according to Tucker Carlson, Muhammad was not a decent person because
no decent person mocks other people's religions.
And according to all the Muslims who praised and celebrated and agreed with Tucker Carlson, Muhammad was not a decent person. And neither were Muhammad's companions. In the history of At-Tabari, one of the polytheists tells Muhammad that if he loses the war against his own tribe, his followers will abandon him. Abu Bakr, Muhammad's closest companion and the first of the rightly guided caliphs, replies to the polytheist in the presence of Muhammad, "Go suck the clitoris of a Lot. Would we flee and leave him?" A Lot was a goddess that this man worshipped. Abu Bakr told him to go perform oral sex on his goddess. So, according to Tucker Carlson and everyone who agreed with him, Abu Bakr wasn't a decent person. How did such an indecent person become the first of the rightly guided caliphs? Always strange seeing people so desperate to protect Islam from criticism that they end up condemning Muhammad and his companions. But let's try to understand why no decent person would ever mock Islam. Back to Tucker.
But by the way, no decent person mocks other people's religions. You may have a problem with the theology. Presumably you do if it's not your religion, and you can explain what that is. But to mock other people's faith is to mock the idea of faith itself, and we should never mock that.
To mock other people's faith is to mock the idea of faith itself?
But to mock other people's faith is to mock the idea of faith itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, beware of claims that are meant to sound profound but are profoundly idiotic. Do Muslims agree that by mocking the faith of the polytheists, Muhammad and his companions were mocking the idea of faith itself and therefore even the faith of Muslims? Do you believe that, Muslims? A bunch of you shared the clip and agreed with it. So Muhammad and his companions were mocking the idea of faith and thus mocking their own faith, right? To mock someone's faith is to mock the idea of faith itself. That is one of the most insanely stupid claims ever made by anyone. Think of a few parallels. To mock a person's political views is to mock the idea of politics itself. To mock a person's morality is to mock the idea of morality itself. To mock a person's claims about history or science is to mock the very idea of history or science. Do you understand how utterly absurd and foolish Tucker's proclamation is? And no, Tucker, by calling your proclamation absurd and foolish, I'm not attacking the idea of proclamations. Guess what, Tucker? I can say you're a moron without saying that all people are morons or that the idea of people is moronic. I can say your dog is ugly without saying that all dogs are ugly or that the idea of dogs is ugly. I can say that your reasoning is terrible without saying that the idea of reason is terrible. If you have to invent rules that make no sense whatsoever to any sane person in order to shield Islam from criticism, maybe you shouldn't be shielding Islam from criticism.
But to mock other people's faith is to mock the idea of faith itself. And we should never mock that, because at its core is the acknowledgement that we are not in charge of the universe. We did not build it. We won't be here at the end of it. We can destroy life. We cannot create it because we are not God.
So if I mock Islam, then I'm mocking the idea of faith itself, and I'm somehow claiming that I'm in charge of the universe. Are you getting this?
The message of all faith at the biggest picture level is the message in our Bible.
The same Bible that regularly mocks other people's religions?
The message of all faith at the biggest picture level is the message in our Bible, which is you are not God. And only if you think you are do you talk this way.
You only mock Islam if you think you're God. Why would Tucker Carlson be so desperate to protect Islam that he's willing to create, out of nothing, an entire moral framework? Almost like he thinks he's God. If Tucker thinks he can make up rules that all decent people must follow, that would seem like a claim to be God far more than mocking the gibberish spouted by the most obvious false prophet in history is a claim to be God. Tell me, why wouldn't I mock Muhammad for saying things like, "The eyes are the leather strap of the anus, so one who sleeps should perform ablution"? Whether Tucker likes it or not, it is entirely appropriate to mock Muhammad's claim that the eyes are the leather strap of the anus, especially when the same guy who said the eyes are the leather strap of the anus also commanded his followers to violently subjugate the entire world. And no amount of Tucker speak is ever going to convince me that false prophets shouldn't be mocked. But it gets worse, because Tucker goes on to tell his viewers that the only acceptable and appropriate Christian response to Islamic aggression is to submit to it. I kid you not. We'll discuss it next time on the Tucker Carlson is Becoming an Antichrist Chronicles.
It just backfired on you. It just backfired on you. This is a part of a religion. There's a reason to it. Yeah?